Well, here we are. We're back live again on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. My name is Wayne Kimmel, the managing partner of 76 Capital. And from the whole team at 76 Capital, from my partners John and Chad and the whole team, we just want to, again, make sure that everyone's healthy out there, that they're staying safe. And just thank you so much for joining us on our leadership series. And tonight, I'm really excited to bring on the CEO of VSiN, Brian Musburger. Brian, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Wayne. Good to be with you.
So before we get started, I wanted to just play a quick video to get everyone all excited about all the things that you're doing at VSiN and what's happening in VSiN, especially with the upcoming draft.
Great.
So there you see all the different, personalities on VSiN, everyone from Brent Musburger to the guys who are from Follow the Money. There's, a great, from a view from one of our shows that we did. I mean, it's just going to be really exciting on Thursday night during the draft. And this is awesome. So Brian, again, welcome to our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And we're just excited to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. Looking forward to it.
Well, I think, before we even jump right into a lot of the questions, I'm going to give just a quick little bio to share with everyone just who you are and what you're all about. And the cool thing about Brian is he's been in the entertainment industry and in the sports industry for the last 15 years. He's negotiated contracts with some of the leading names and personalities in sports and entertainment. And we'll talk about some of those stories and some of those people that Brian's been involved with, and it's really impressive. And then a couple years ago, we're going to go into all the detail here. Brian had this idea of starting a sports betting network, and he created VSiN, and VSiN is now the sports betting network. And it's really exciting to have you on the show. It's awesome to have you as the CEO of one of our portfolio companies, and I'd love to start things off to hear just a little bit about how someone who was in the sports business, in the entertainment world, but then why did you decide, or how did you even learn about this world of sports betting?
That's a good question. I mean, my fascination with sports betting goes way back to late 70s, early 80s, when I went to go visit Brent on the set of the NFL Today. And a guy wearing gold chains came up and gave me a $50 bill, and it was Jimmy the Greek. And he said to me, "I had a good day betting the games, kid." And to me, that was mind blowing. A guy that was making a living off of predicting who was going to win a football game. There was nothing cooler than that. Anyway, I was always around the sports and entertainment business. Started working for my father in the late 90s. And he had built really one of the largest independent talent agencies in the country out of Chicago, representing people in both in front of and behind the camera, as well as sports personalities, coaches, and folks. And he built this great business that I was fascinated by. And in college, I was learning to edit videos and started working with him and putting together demo reels for on-air talent, and was always fascinated by the business and was able to be a fly on the wall for some really heated and exciting, contract talks.
So Brian, sorry to interrupt, but real quick. So I know many people may have not caught what you just said at the beginning. So let me just set this up again. So you were on the set of NFL Today, and you were there with your uncle, Brent Musburger.
Yes.
And you got to meet and spend time with Jimmy the Greek and the other greats that were talking about football.
And I got quite an education from Jimmy in a strange way. He gave me a gift when I was probably 10 years old. He came out with a game that was really one of the earliest versions of in-game wagering. He had a board game called Jimmy the Greek's Pigskin Pick'em, which was a wonderful board game that every Sunday morning I would lay it out on the family room floor, and you would bet monopoly money on what play would happen next. Would it be a run or a pass, short yardage, long yardage? And there were different odds for the different outcomes. And it was a great way to learn math. It was really how I made math bearable going through school as a youngster. I was fascinated by the numbers.
So do you use that same game? Do you and Michelle use that game with your boys?
We do. We broke it out, and it still holds up. You know, Jimmy was way ahead of his time, man, and some of that stuff. But it's a fun way to keep kids involved in the action.
Well, it's pretty amazing, you know. Today, right? We're broadcasting our sports, our 76 Capital Leadership Series on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, as well as on YouTube. And if you go on YouTube and you search Brent Musburger and the NFL Today, there are some great, you know, shots of Brent and Jimmy the Greek with those boards. Yeah. And they would have the check marks down the sides, but they couldn't talk about sports betting, right?
Right. I mean, it was far more taboo. Actually, I think they were way ahead of the times. I think there's less talk in the this last season. There was less sports betting talk in the big three pregame shows than there was in the 70s and 80s with Jimmy the Greek and Brent. And they knew how to sneak it in now. They understood that there was a huge audience that wasn't being spoken to directly. People that had a lot of money riding on the outcomes of these games. And that was really the thinking behind launching VSiN. You know, we know that there's always been an audience of people that were putting money at risk. It's not just PASPA. That wasn't the beginning of sports betting. Sports betting has been going on for as long as there's been sports. And so we launched VSiN wanting to give people a credible source of information to make more informed wagers. It was really quite simple. You know, we knew that there was hundreds of billions of dollars being wagered every year on sports. And as somebody that was fascinated by it, I was constantly seeking out credible sources of information, and I was stunned that there weren't any. You know, and the credible news organizations were too afraid to dive into it, and so it was really a way for a startup broadcast organization to flank the existing big boys in the space. And that's what we did. We went into a territory that we knew they would be uncomfortable in, and we were able to start it early before the country really got behind it and establish ourselves as really the preeminent voice in the space. That, you know, we were able to lock up, in my mind, really some of the best talent out there when it comes to sports betting. And very fortunate that early on, because of the amount of time that both Brent and I spent out here, we knew the people to go after. And it started, the success of VSiN owes so much to those early decisions of seeking out Jimmy Vaccaro, Chris Andrews, Michael Gaughan, Vinny Maiulo, and so many other folks that had been in the industry. And then we would ask them who they liked and who they respected. And that's how we made some of our best talent decisions.
It's really fascinating. I mean, the story of you growing up and living in Chicago, right? As you mentioned, we mentioned earlier, as a talent agent, working with, you know, some of the greats. I mean, you and your dad, Todd Musburger, working with Phil Jackson, you know, in his days with the Bulls and the Lakers and the Knicks, and we'll get to some of that in a little bit. But then leaving Chicago. The story there. I know you just mentioned some of the people that you met when you got to Las Vegas, but it wasn't just like you showed up in Las Vegas, the next thing you know, you were running a network. Like, tell us the grind, the entrepreneurial story, you know, behind going and living in Vegas and then just turning this into something. How'd you make this thing?
That's a tough one. It was tough. It was hard. I don't know that I had any idea of what I was getting into at the time. You know, I was making the plans in a great conference room at our office on Ontario and Michigan in Chicago, where I was working with my father, and we were putting these projections together. And I was always stunned that nobody was doing this. The more I looked into it, the more convinced I was that there was an appetite for the content. And I kept waiting to read about somebody trying to launch something that was speaking to this audience and doing it the right way with, capital J journalists. And it wasn't happening. So I said, well, we gotta take a shot at this. And one of the first people I went to was Bill 80, and I couldn't have made a better decision there. Bill was running all things digital for the Tribune and Trunk, and really it is somebody that I had negotiated against for many years and had butted heads with. And I was always so impressed by Bill's ability to say no to me and to give me a well-reasoned response why I was nuts. And, I had a lot of respect for Bill then and even more now. Just a terrific work ethic and a guy that understands digital content like so few people in this country. And when I first ran the idea by him, he nodded his head and was like, you're onto something. Are you sure there's nobody else doing this? I said, I haven't found him. Tell me if you have. And he came back. He said, I got to tell you, I searched. This is a wide open space. This is a great opportunity. I think you should do it. I said, no, I think we should do it, Bill. And I was able to talk him into eventually leaving a great position there. And we were off to the races after that. At that time, neither of us knew if we would move permanently to Las Vegas. We thought, hey, we can find the right people to run this thing. And but the more time we spent out there, we're like, all right, if we're going to do this, we got to be all in. It's a trite expression, but there is no other way to run a business about sports betting outside of Las Vegas. Everything happens in Las Vegas. Yes, that's changing a bit, and there are other places popping up, but right. This is still the heart of the action.
And you were able to really get yourself in the middle of all the action while you were, when you went out there. So you and Bill, and how did you end up at working at and creating this first studio and building the first studio at the South Point? How did the South Point become the place for where VSiN was really born?
There's a lot of things that drew us to the South Point. First was Brent. Brent loved Michael Gaughan, the owner of the South Point, who had operated the Barbary Coast for many years on the Strip. And that's where Brent and Jimmy the Greek would go when they were in town, because, as Brent loves to say, that's on parlay cards, ties win. So he said, if you're looking to do this, check out all the big guys on the Strip. But you got to go see Michael Gaughan. He knows more about sports betting than anyone in the town. And at the same time, I had been looking online and fell in love with this show that had been produced called The Line Makers. And two of the characters in The Line Makers, I knew Sonny Vaccaro from being around the basketball world, knew of Jimmy. Brent knew Jimmy. And there was this other guy who I had seen on who was a regular recurring guy on David Letterman, Vinny Maiulo. He was Vinny from Brooklyn, I think, who would come on the night before the Super Bowl. And they were on this program, The Line Makers. I watched a few episodes. I knew that these guys were great characters to build a media network around. So I just cold called Vinny and said, Vinny, I'm interested in starting the sports betting network out of Las Vegas. Would love to come talk to you. And he thought I was crazy, I think, at first, but called me back and he set up a meeting for me with Michael Gaughan. And Michael immediately understood what we were trying to do. And one of the most important things that happened early on was Michael understood that in order to be a credible voice for the industry, we had to be able to talk about lines from casinos all over town, not just Homer for one book. And he got it immediately and said, look, I'm cool with you having whoever on you want, but we said, we don't want to have touts. We're not going to get into pick sellers. And, that's not what we're looking to do. We're looking to just give credible information. And he loved the idea. And before we were even ready, before we had $1 raised, he started building a studio. And I thought to myself, oh, crap, we got to move. We got to really put something together here. And we did. It was great to have his support.
That's amazing. And what, so to let people know, once again, we're here on the 76th Capital Leadership Series with VSiN CEO Brian Musburger, and he's telling the story of how VSiN was founded and really how he had this idea of building this sports betting media network. So we're at the point of the story where Michael Gaughan's building a studio. You got to now actually really go do it. And basically, the studio, to sort of set this up and give a picture for everybody, the studio is very similar to the studio at how CNBC has a studio in the middle of the New York Stock Exchange. Is that the best way to describe this?
Yeah, it is. We're right in the middle of the action of one of the busiest sports books in the world, just in terms of the volume of bets. And when I first sat down with Michael, he asked what we would be looking for. I said it'd be great to be able to build a soundproof box right in the middle of your sports book. And he laughed and said, "Kid, do you understand that that's the most valuable real estate in the casino?" And I didn't, but he schooled me on just how valuable that real estate is. And I thought there's no way in hell this guy is going to agree to do this. But we kept talking, and he believed in the idea, and has really was a tremendous champion. Continues to be a tremendous champion for us.
It's amazing. So you kick it off. You start with a couple different shows. You start bringing in different talent, and then let's kind of fast forward to PASPA gets overturned, which was the law that basically was found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, which at the time was only allowed Nevada to have sports betting, which was May 14th of 2018. We're almost coming up to the 2-year anniversary of that. And I guess a few months before that, we were introduced to each other. I guess it was really like through Michelle and some other people that we knew. And then next thing you know, once we found out at 76 Capital that PASPA was overturned, and one of the first calls that I made was to you. And I said, "I'm coming out to Vegas. I want to talk to you about this CNBC of sports betting thing that you want to build." And well, I'll tell you just personally, once I saw the studio right away, I was like, I want to be involved with this. And then once we got to know you and Bill and Steven and Todd and Brent and the rest of the team, we were super excited to be investors and partners with you. And then it's just, things just kept going at this point, right? You were able to bring in some other partners. Let's talk about where things are now.
Yeah, it's, I've been thinking a lot about the partnerships that we've been able to forge and how fortunate we are to have so many great partners. It started with SiriusXM, was really the first media company to believe in the idea. Got a tremendous amount of support from Steve Cohen, who runs sports for SiriusXM, who really understood the vision from the beginning and was willing to take a chance on us pre-PASPA. And then, we've Steven Shalansky, who another guy that I had negotiated against in my previous career. He had been at HBO and then helped launch the Stars Network. He's been tremendous at helping us get partnerships and distribution deals with different video carriers. We did Sling, Fubo. Trying to think of all the partners we have: New York Post, LA Times, Nesson, the Marquee Network, MSG, now Comcast, iHeart, Cox, and Rogers in Canada. So really a terrific list of blue chip media companies that understand our approach to covering this industry and have really helped us get the word out to more people and grow our distribution. It's been a wild ride in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, millions and millions of viewers. Even with on the radio network, on the terrestrial side, we took a radio station that was last, made them first by taking the VSiN content, and now, as you just mentioned, with Comcast on the X1 box. So any of our viewers out there tonight, if you have an X1 box from Comcast, Just go to your apps, just like you would when you're going to go watch Netflix, and go to sports, and right underneath Netflix is VSiN, VSiN. Check it out. It's the sports betting network, the brainchild of Brian Musburger. And if you like sports, if you're into, wanting to really understand how the numbers work and how the betting lines really are created, and why they're moving in different directions, not only before the game, but during the game, the place to do that is on VSiN.
Yeah, and I think right now, during this period where there's very little happening in the sports, I shouldn't say very little happening. There's a lot happening, but not a lot of games to bet on. We're doing more content around how to bet. I still think that there's a huge audience, a lot of people out there that are a little bit intimidated by sports betting. So we're trying to demystify that and doing some shows and creating some content that helps people understand the basics of how to do this. It's not easy, but there are some good, similar to blackjack. I think that there's a basic strategy that you need to deploy if you want to have a chance to be successful. If you don't understand the basics, you're going to get slaughtered. It's
not just liking your favorite teams.
No, that can be expensive.
Absolutely.
Chicago, yeah.
Well, why don't we talk about that? I mean, I think it's really, so, every morning on the East Coast at 7 a.m., you kick the day off with
Mitch and Paul and their show Follow the Money. And I got to say, I'm incredibly grateful as an entrepreneur. When you come up with a concept, there's a gratitude that you feel to the people that are willing to buy into what you're doing. And I couldn't be more appreciative of Mitch and Paul, who we found through Jimmy Vaccaro. Jimmy, I asked every bookmaker in Las Vegas, who are the media guys that you turn to, that you respect, that you listen to? And Jimmy said, "Kid, there's one show you got to get. It's this knucklehead, Paulie Howard, and you should check him out with Mitch Moss. Those two together, they'll kill it for you." And so we did. We tried them out, and I couldn't be more appreciative. They put together such an amazing show, and it really is the fastest growing sports talk show in the country right now. The distribution that we're getting for that show, it's not just in the U.S., in Canada and across the globe. It's amazing. These guys are the next big stars in sports media. And I couldn't be more appreciative of the effort they put in, and really the thought that they put into preparing for each show. You couldn't find a smarter, more committed host to learn from. And they really set up the day well for us. Having them, they come in at 4 a.m. Pacific time into a dark casino, or now they're doing it from home. But when we explained that we wanted to reach people on the East Coast and said, "Hey, we'd love for you. We think that there's a larger audience for you if you'd be willing to get up in the middle of the night and do the show." And they didn't think twice. They jumped right in, and they've built an amazing show with a huge following. And the success of that show is a big part of the success of VSiN. The way they set up the day for us, it's tremendous and really a great listen. So after that, we go into another show that I'm really proud of, Gil Alexander and a numbers game. Gil is another guy that came to us from Chris Andrews, one of the most respected bookmakers in Las Vegas. In talking to him, I said, who's the guy that understands numbers best?
Right.
Is there a young quant that you really respect? And he said, there's a guy that killed it betting baseball and was a close friend of Chris. And so I had listened to Gil's podcast before that. I was a big fan, but bringing Gil on, he's an outstanding interviewer. He understands the space, a cerebral sports bettor that really has a great gift for explaining the systems and the method that he arrives at making his picks, and really a terrific understanding of the space, and has been a wonderful partner as well. So
right. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I'm saying listening to Gil, it's like, it's like it's entertaining, but you're learning so much. Whether it's him talking about tennis or baseball or football. I mean, it's just he's unbelievable how much he knows about the sport and how much he knows about the numbers around it. And so again, I'm just really excited to have Brian Musburger on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. We're going through the lineup at VSiN right now, starting in the morning when we have Follow the Money and then a numbers game with Gil. And then, let's talk about a little East Coast flavor here. So
yeah.
What happened? How did you end up with bringing on, Mike Lombardi?
Been a big fan of Michael Lombardi's from the first time I heard him, and I followed his podcast for a while. And when we were looking to expand to Atlantic City, he was right down the beach there. And what better person to talk football betting? There's really no more informed insider than Michael, and the preparation that he does. I've learned so much about the game of football from listening to him and how to handicap football. He admitted to us when we first sat down, he said, look, I know the game of football. I don't know sports betting all that well, but I'm curious about it. And he liked the folks that we had on the network and was curious about what we were doing. And he really, right out of the gate, he's done an amazing job for us. And he's learned so much about sports betting and how to handicap. Just a great listen and a wonderful guy that I couldn't be more happy to have him as part of our team as well. And right now he's doing a show after Gil Alexander with another terrific broadcaster who we discovered in Las Vegas, who'd been working for Mad Dog Radio, Patrick Maher. Patrick is out of Detroit, but really a talented young guy that is one of the best hosts around. We loved what he was coming out to Vegas during March Madness and had just a great enthusiasm. He's a terrific interviewer and has just a natural curiosity that makes him a wonderful broadcaster and interviewer. And putting those two together has been it's a great show. So yeah, right now we're doing that, and then we follow up with our guy Josh Applebaum, who's out in Massachusetts.
I have to jump in here on this, Brian. I mean, he's our guy, but he's James Santor's guy. I mean, he's my staff at 76 Capital. I mean, he and Josh. I mean, it's like they're long lost buddies.
It's hard not to love Josh, and another just really hardworking, good guy who has a passion and a curiosity about sports betting and really a great approach. I've really enjoyed being able to bring him on the team, and he does a lot of great stuff with our newsletter, which people can sign up for. It's free. Just go to vsin.com and give us your email, and you can get a free daily newsletter with a lot of great insight from Josh and others. But Josh is I think he's worked every day for the last over a year now for us, and I really love what he brings to the network. A good guy.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then you have guys like Matt Humans and Jonathan Van Tobel. And, I mean, it's just the young people, the young talent, I would say, that you've been able to develop into true TV stars has been really impressive.
Humans was, I will say, one of the most important hires for the network. And nobody was more instrumental in giving great guidance as to who to stay away from in many cases, and who to trust. Matt had been a beat reporter at the Las Vegas Review-Journal for many years, and really understood the industry and the ins and outs and who the shady characters were. And he has terrific news judgment. We owe a lot to Matt. He's been such an important part of the team here, and a great broadcaster. And it's been great to have him be a part of Mitch and Paulie's Follow the Money show in the morning. He gets up. Actually, I don't know that he gets up. He's still up at 4 a.m. when that show goes, and he's an animal. Matt Humans is an animal. And then the guy that he's done a lot of shows with, Jonathan Von Tobel, another great kid that found through Matt. He was a local radio producer here in town that was trying to get a shot on air. And we originally brought him in as a producer. And I was immediately taken by his knowledge, understanding, and recall. The kid has a true photographic memory. It was actually his mother that was the first one to tell me that. But he's for real. Like, he can look at a box score and he'll be able to quote it for years. Really a gifted young kid with a bright future, and looking to put these guys in a good position to succeed. I think we have a terrific core of broadcasters and just knowledgeable folks that facilitate a good, smart conversation. I think that one of the goals Bill and I talk about all the time is we want to know that we're learning something from every hour of our shows. If you don't learn something in listening or watching for an hour, then we've failed. Like, we want you to get some nugget that you can walk away with that makes you a more informed, better. It could be a strategy, it could be an injury update, but there should be something there that you did not know going in. And if you're following sports closely, you should still be learning from our network.
Wow. Well, we're having a great time here tonight on our 76 Capital Leadership Series with VSiN CEO Brian Musburger. Again, thank you for joining us and sharing all the things that you've done, and also just how you've been able to develop talent at VSiN. And I know that one of the things that we talk about at a board level with with Dan Mason, the former CEO of CBS Radio, who's also an investor and advisor and member of the team here at VSiN, we're always talking about who are the next people, right? We've got a lot of time on the air that we look to fill, finding really good people. And before we get to the one thing, which kind of who makes this all work, right? A lot of the behind the scenes people that as well, right? But at the same time, there was this one guy, Brent something or other.
We're so fortunate. Brent has done so much for me and for the network. I couldn't be more appreciative for all that he's done. And really, who better to build a sports gambling network around? There was nobody that had the guts and the history of talking about sports betting well before it was accepted. It's sort of, I use this analogy sometimes. It's like Cheech and Chong in the marijuana industry. They were doing it long before it was legal, and so was Brent. He's our Cheech and Chong.
That's a T-shirt, Brian. That's another T-shirt. Get Bill to start making that T-shirt. Call him. Let's go.
Look, he loves his passion for the subject matter as it comes through, and the shows that he does they're terrific. He's still bringing his A game at his advanced age. It's amazing how hard he works, and it's great to have. I saw this around the Bulls as well. It's great when your best player is your hardest practice. Works hardest in practice, and Brent still does a ton of prep for his show at a time where no one would blame him for phoning it in. He's still out in the book, interviewing people, and he watches more games than anybody. And that passion really, I think, elevates the game of the other people that we have. And he also gave us tremendous credibility right out of the gate. And it was really, I can't thank him enough for walking away from a really great situation at ESPN and Disney to come on this harebrained, ride that we've taken him on to launch VSiN.
So was it your idea or Brent's idea for this, for the VSiN beer?
It was his son's idea. So
okay,
Brent's sons are big in the beer business, and but Bookmaker Blonde, VSiN Bookmaker Blonde, is still available here in Nevada and in Montana, up in Helena, and we're looking for a way to distribute beer right now during the shutdown. We're hoping that we can start packaging it and sending it around the country to our viewers.
Well, you mentioned Chicago, and before we go there, so behind the scenes, there's some really incredible people that have been with you from the beginning. Others have joined recently, but I think just so people can really appreciate we have great talent, we have really great executives, but at the same time, from a production perspective, to make this all happen, it's tough, it's hard, right? I mean, but you've got a really great team of people that have been with you.
We do, and I can't say enough about our executive producer, Brian Rogers, has done an amazing job. Brian was at Fox Sports for many years and really keeps the trains on the track, which it's increasingly difficult with all these partners that we have. There's a lot for him to juggle, and we throw a lot on Brian's plate, but really an incredible asset to the team and does a great job for us. We also recently brought on Derek Van Nostrand from Evanston, Illinois, a kid I went to high school with, who had been the head of marketing and had been at CNN and Turner and done a lot. But he came on to head up marketing for us and has done a great job and immediately has been a great fit with all of us. And as I was saying earlier, the gratitude that you have to these people that believe in the vision and work so hard to grow the business, I couldn't be more appreciative to a lot of really good people that are helping this thing grow.
Absolutely, and Dave Bartman and what he's brought to the team. I mean,
Bartman, Steve Makinen on Point Spread Weekly. If people are watching this and want to download a free betting guide, a guide to how to follow the NFL draft, go to VSiN.com and you can get a free copy of Point Spread Weekly, where we're breaking down and discussing what we think is going to happen on Thursday night during the draft.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, you could go to VSiN.com, VSIN.com, sign up for the newsletter, sign up for the draft. For all the information around the draft. You'll get an email every single morning from Bill 80. I mean, without Bill's email in the morning, I wouldn't even know what time to get up. So that wakes me up every morning, and Bill stays up talk about not sleeping and talk
Bill
about
doesn't sleep. No, he's another animal.
Yeah. And when's the last time Bill slept? I don't even know.
Who knows?
But we love Bill and the team. It's really been amazing. And so and look, this is in a way, it's a great culmination of all the things that you've done, right, in your career. As you mentioned earlier, you and your dad were running this agency representing Phil Jackson, and we're in the middle right now of the new Bulls docuseries on ESPN, The Last Dance.
Right.
And I was on did a show the other day, and Esty Portnoy, who's Michael Jordan's partner, she's one of the executive producers of that, and it's amazing the things that how they were able to get this done and as quickly and kind of put it out there a little early for everyone to have something to watch. But we're watching it, we're experiencing it now, we're kind of remembering what it was like back then. But when that was all going on, you were in the middle of it all. And tell us about some of the stories and what's Phil like and what was it like during that time?
I reflect often on so many of the things I learned from being around Phil. And a wonderful man who was really unmatched in his profession. Just an incredibly skilled manager of people and a wonderful coach and mentor who had a wonderful way of getting the best out of the people on his team. And that's something that, as a CEO, you want to, I try to learn those lessons and follow some of his techniques, but I'm in awe, and watching the series reminds me of just how good he was and the challenges that he had to overcome to do what he did. There was nobody that will ever equal his accomplishments as a coach. I'm convinced of that. I think that I was incredibly fortunate to really have a ringside seat to some of the most amazing basketball ever played. I was lucky to be at all the Bulls playoff games, and then to travel really with the Lakers for many years, and to be close to those, Jordan and Rodman and Pippen, Tony Kukoc, a wonderful team there. And then again, for him to follow it up with tremendous success in Los Angeles, and then follow him to New York. There was still a lot I was able to learn a lot from the way Phil handled that situation as well. But
so how did Phil, right? How did Phil, once he went from Chicago to LA, he has Kobe, but then how did he get Shaq? How did that all come about? And were you involved in that at all?
Shaq was there when Phil got there.
Oh, he was. Okay.
Yeah, Shaq was already there, and but I remember the day that Phil signed with the Lakers. We were hanging out. I think it was the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, and I was in a hotel room, and all of a sudden Jerry West walked in, and then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar walked in, Magic Johnson walked in, Kobe walked in, and Kobe immediately wanted to know what he could do to be a better player, and he had read Phil's books, and it just had this amazing determination that was really inspiring to be around. And you knew right away that the kid had unprecedented, unrivaled drive. But for me, it was the thrill of a lifetime growing up in Chicago. To be around those Bulls teams and the success that they had was really something I'll never forget.
Really, really, really incredible stories. So, one of the things that I also really wanted to touch on today, and is on this, as part of everything that we're doing here with our 76 Capital Leadership Series, is talking about some of the obstacles that CEOs have had to get through. And in sports betting, it's more than your normal types of obstacles, because there's this whole regulatory piece. And how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the laws in all the different states? Yes, we're a media company, but there's a lot of things that you've been, very much involved with from an industry level.
Right. Being a media company does allow us to skirt much of that. And look, we're not in the business of taking bets. We have no interest in who our listeners or viewers want to take a position on. We just are in the business of giving good information. So that should not be regulated in the same way that the bet taking companies are. But it's been fascinating to observe. One of the things that I'm hoping that the state of Nevada will revisit right now during this period is I'm hoping that they will allow sports books to accept, maybe it's not credit card deposits, but maybe it's debit card deposits to fund and set up accounts. There's a lot of people that I think would love to be at home betting on, even if it's Belarusian ping pong or South Korean baseball. There are things to bet on, and there's going to be more things to bet on. And it's I think that would be a nice gesture and a common sense step for the state to take right now to start helping these casinos recover. This city is going to be has really taken it on the chin here. I have no doubt that the city will bounce back and these properties will bounce back, but you would like to see some steps taken to help make up for the lost revenue.
Yeah, I mean, so when we talk about the regulatory side of things, we talk about the overall world of sports betting. I think that you and the team at VSiN have covered it. We went from the only state in the country, in Nevada, that had legalized sports betting, to Delaware opening, and then New Jersey, and then the list goes down. And now we have, correct me if I'm wrong, 20 states plus the District of Columbia, right? So 21 places that can have sports betting in the U.S. and 14-ish. It keeps changing, right? 14 or so now are live, and these other states are now turning it on. As we all say, we all want sports to be back, and sports will be back in sooner.
Right.
But I think it's been really great to have the voice of sports betting and VSiN being that as this has been happening and rolling out all across the country.
Yeah, and I think that this crisis will probably speed that up in some states. The cash pinch that so many states are feeling is only being exacerbated right now. So I think that Massachusetts may move up their timeline. I wouldn't be surprised to see that come online sooner than we probably had anticipated a few months ago. Still looking forward to Colorado going live, which should happen in May, I think. So, yeah, I think that there's going to be more states. I think Canada very well could light up sooner for the same reason. So I think that throughout North America, you're going to see more legal betting operators set up.
So are you hearing any insider news about when sports will be back? Is there anything sort of special that you're hearing from any of your contacts? And I ask everyone this question. People ask me, and
I honestly, the best thing I heard was from a franchise owner who said, anybody that's telling you they know the plan, they're full of it. Because the people who are trying to make the plans, they don't know what to do right now. And that's the sad truth. I think we all have to be prepared for this thing to last a long time. And we just got to keep our folks healthy and continue to be able to crank out content. Sports will come back and sports betting will come back. I have no doubt about that. I think that we've been able to put ourselves in a good position to weather this storm, even if it's an extended period of time, which it will be. And we just have to remain focused on what we do. And really our efforts during this period have sort of shifted to how do we grow our distribution and how do we reach more people when sports do come back. And amazingly, I think that we will be in front of almost 4 times as many homes as we were before this thing started with the new distribution deals that we've rolled out during this period. So, we're continuing to plug away. We have a good team that we just need to keep healthy and continue to improve on the technical side and work on greater distribution for the time that everything does bounce back.
Look, as we talked about earlier, the Comcast deal that you just did on the Xfinity box, right underneath the Netflix app is pretty amazing. And, that's going to just get so many more people to get an opportunity to experience VSiN during this time when they're home. So especially now, right? I mean, why don't we talk briefly about what's going to happen tomorrow? We have the NFL draft coming, and what's VSiN doing?
I think we're going to put together one of the best draft shows ever. I'm really excited about this show. We're putting we got a lot of great people working on it, on some unique content. It's a different way to follow along with what's happening. Michael Lombardi, Brent, Matt Humans, Jonathan Von Tobel, they've really been able to do a deep dive and look at this draft every way you can. And, they've talked to a lot of the best sports bettors in the country about how to look at this draft and where the money-making opportunities are. And from what I've seen, the folks that are serious about betting the draft do very well. It's a softer market than what you're going to find trying to bet the games. These are things that I think that there's some great. It's hard to find great prices now, but there have been. But I think there's a lot of interesting opportunities. And it's a fun way to follow the event. The ratings for this thing are going to be monstrous. And I think that we're in a great position to watch the draft, turn to our channel as well, and you're going to get a different perspective on it. And I think just like with the Jimmy the Greek board game, there's a way to play along at home and go to our website, take a look at the betting opportunities that exist from all the different betting operators around the country. And it's a fun way to follow along and even bet with the family if you can't find a way to get something down. I think I'll be doing that with my kids while we watch the game or watch the draft.
And that's one of the cool things. I mean, one of the things that this is, now that live sports are not happening, one of our big shows was the Green Zone, right? Where you would have on at VSiN, which would show how the lines would move during the game. And I think like that was something that's really innovative that you've been able to do at VSiN is have this show very, very similar to what Scott Hansen does on the NFL Network with the Red Zone. But instead of just cheering for all the touchdowns, which, by the way, is a great show, right? But just, wow. I mean, being able to also say when that touchdown is scored, what does that mean?
Right. I love being able to watch the touchdowns, and Scott does a fantastic job with that show. But what we bring is really the analysis of what it means to the betting markets in real time. And to me, that's a fascinating discussion to be a part of. Just like tracking win probability throughout the course of a game. And we've really been able to pioneer both the betcast and sort of the in-game wagering opportunities. We're doing a lot more in the betcasting space as well. Had a terrific partnership with iHeart and the XFL. Unfortunately, they're a victim of the last few months. But we're looking to do more in that space as well.
Well, and then we talk about, one of the final things we'll talk about on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And again, just it's amazing to have Brian Musburger, CEO of VSiN, on the show with us. One of the big things that you were planning at VSiN, along with one of our other great partners, Derek Stevens, and I see that Steve Pastorino just asked us a question about this. And Steve's now an executive at US Integrity with Matt Holt and Scott Sadin and the whole team over there. But he's asking, and something that he must be reading my mind, because it's one of the things I wanted to wrap up with, was this: what was going to happen with VSiN and the new property that Derek is building in Las Vegas?
I'm not putting this in the past tense. It's what is going to happen. We're really excited about. Just before all of this started, took a tour recently of the Circa building site, and it's amazing. It's that casino will change Las Vegas. What Derek Stevens is building is really tremendous, and for us to have this prime piece of real estate in what will be the biggest sports book in the world is thrilling for me. Derek has been another great partner that we wouldn't be here without. And I so respect his vision and just what he's building with Circa. I'm hearing that they're working hard to have this thing ready and open here sooner than people think. I'm excited, and we will be doing. We hope to be doing shows from there very soon, and we're excited to expand our footprint and our capabilities to be able to do creating more great content.
Well, that's amazing. And again, I just want to thank you for coming onto our show, to having Brian Musburger, the CEO of VSiN, on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. We want to just reach out to everybody, and we want everyone to be healthy. We want everyone to stay safe out there. We all desperately want sports back, more than anything. But we do have tomorrow the NFL Draft. I mean, it's almost like a gift for all of us right now. And, there's going to be things. We'll get there. We'll get there, and we'll continue entertaining everybody on VSiN during that time until we get there.
I think now more than ever, people need a distraction from the news, and I think that our shows can help provide that, especially Mitch and Paulie in the morning. It's great to find a way to laugh right now, and I really am so appreciative of the job that all of our everyone on our team has done during a very difficult time, but I'm confident that we're gonna weather the storm and be ready for when sports bounce back.
Well, again, thanks, Brian. Thanks for taking the time. Stay safe out there in Las Vegas. Send the best to your family, the whole team at VSiN, and we're here for you at 76 Capital. The 76 Capital family is here to do anything you need. Please let us know, as obviously we're cheering for you, and we're definitely going to be tuning in tomorrow night, watching the draft show on VSiN. So
sounds good. Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate all the support, as
well,
always.
Absolutely, and thank you for everything that you do. So for Wayne Kimmel, for Brian Musburger, this is the 76 Capital Leadership Series, and thanks for watching, everybody.